Hey guys, Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I have a very budget-friendly knife. This is the Kershaw Injection. Now, I'm doing this review now because these are on sale like for crazy prices at a few different places. The model is discontinued. There's still quite a few of them out there. They're easy to come by, but they are, places are just clearing them out. Now, I think the best price that I found was Knife Center for $14.95. Okay, which is crazy, right? Now I will say this, if you're watching from Canada, I know there's an issue by the time you do the exchange and add shipping. It maybe isn't the best deal going, but Warriors and Wonders has them as well. And really, even SR Knives, they'll do price matching. So if you're, if you're looking for a Canadian source for this, there are a couple of possibilities for you. And again, really, really great deal for a knife that originally these sold for like 40, 45 bucks, which I've got to say, this was a good knife at that price. So for 15 bucks, it's really, really awesome. Now, let me actually talk about the knife itself. This is a Todd Rexford design, along with a number of other Kershaws that are out there. And I really like the Rexford Kershaw collaborations. And so it makes sense that I like this one. The size and weight on this is just under 8 inches, but I mean just under, like 7 7/8 overall. 3 3/8 inch blade. Now most, they list it as a 3.5 inch blade, but it's really just under 3.5 inches. 4.5 inch handle. Now the only number that's not completely amazing on these is the weight, 4.4 ounces. Now 4.4 ounces is not too heavy, okay, not at all. But for the size of this knife, I feel like had they milled out the liners, it could have been even quite a bit lighter, okay? Not the end of the world. Again, 4.4 ounces is really good, so this knife carries really, really nicely and is very, very functional. So there you go. Size and weight on this is quite nice. Maybe just a little smaller than I like, okay? And it seems that, I don't know, as time passes, I'm leaning even more toward larger knives. If you've seen the reviews I've done recently, most of them have been bigger stuff. Now, I kind of broke that rule today. You're probably seeing my Band-Aid. This morning I was cutting up a bunch of apples. I was using my Lion Steel Kerr, which is a nice small knife, and that's an absolute favorite recently, and it's about the same size as this. So even though, yeah, I probably am leaning towards larger knives recently, I still like those 8 inch blades are still adequate. So now you got the size and weight. Let's go ahead and switch to a close-up version of this so I can go over the details with you and do some comparisons. By the way, let me know what you think about me doing all the comparisons together again. I know I'd kind of stopped doing that, and I guess I've come full circle, and I will have some knives to pull in and do sort of some competitive options or whatever with this when we get to that point. Okay, so please let me know what you think about that in the comments, and we'll see you over at the tabletop. Okay guys, so here we are with a close-up look at this Kershaw Injection. We're going to start with the blade the way that we normally do and kind of work our way down from there. So there's the blade for you. Full flat ground drop point blade with a bead blasted finish, HCR13 MOV. It's fairly thin blade stock, so it does slice extremely well, all right, and edge retention is going to be adequate. It's HCR13 MOV, so it's not going to be like stellar, mind-blowing, never have to sharpen it type of thing, but it'll be fine for, if you're going to use this daily and you touch it up with a strop or hone it a little bit at night, you'll have no issues with edge retention. I will say I'm not a fan of the bead blasted finish, not because of the look. I think it looks really good actually. If I come out, the design overall, I think the bead blast fits just fine. However, bead blasting does open the steel up to a little more corrosion or rust, and that I could find being an issue, especially with HCR13 MOV, which is, it is a stainless steel, but it's not a super duper stainless steel. So you've got a steel that can be prone a little bit to rusting, and then you put on a finish that makes it even more prone to rusting. Not that cool. Otherwise though, this blade is really, really good. It's thinly ground, it slices like crazy. The only thing I would say as sort of a warning is be a little bit careful when you're using this. There is a chance that if you drop this, you would break the tip off. But otherwise, Great blade, really no issues in terms of actually using it, okay? So what about lockup and deployment? Well, you can see it's T6 Torx there. It does have this nice big decorative pivot that I definitely think adds something to the knife. It is a liner lock, and it's a fairly thick liner with no relief cut. And no relief cut to me is a huge win. I'm not a fan at all of knives that have a relief cut. Number one, I've seen them wear out over time. Number two, they're unnecessary. And number three, you're reducing the cross-sectional area of that spring, and cross-sectional area is the main thing we care about when we're talking about how strong steel is. So when it's not needed, why bother with it? So liner lock, very good. Lockup is excellent. Deployment is good. The thumb studs here, they're a little bit sharp, but not bad, okay? I don't know, I play with knives all the time, so maybe I don't notice this as much as others. There's a bit of a sharp edge there, but I don't really have any complaints about it. The one thing I will say is a bit of a complaint is it took me some playing with this to get there to be no blade play. Out of box, it had a little bit of blade play, and I noticed fairly quickly, by the way, this is an understained privet, so if you set it to where you want it and then play with the knife for a while, the blade play will come back pretty quickly. And you have to have this knife pretty tight. So in order to get it to where there's no blade play at all, I have this so that, I can flick it open, but I really have to give it some oomph in order to do that, okay? Not a big deal, and for me, I would take that trade-off any day of the week, right? I'd rather have a tighter blade with no blade play than a looser one that flicks open easily. Just kind of letting you know that I had to tighten that up fairly substantially in order to make sure there was no blade play. Now, moving on to the handle, we have this very nicely contoured G10 with some lines cut into it, and those lines come directly off of the custom injection. That's where that sort of design feature came from. I wish they would have let you see right through the knife. They could have milled out the stainless steel liners on this and allowed those to be actual holes, and that would have lightened the knife up a little bit and I think added something kind of cool to this. They didn't. It's not the end of the world. I think the knife still looks good. Most importantly, the knife feels really good. This is a very comfortable knife in hand, and the contour G10 and even the lines cut in do add some grip and some comfort to the knife overall. Pocket clip is just a fairly standard spring clip. I like the fact that it's fairly small and unobtrusive. Also, it's reversible to left side carry if you wanted to do that. Otherwise, no major. Oh yeah, one last thing that I do think is cool is I like the way they've done the lanyard attachment here. It's not really a lanyard hole, but they've just got a pin in here that you could put a lanyard around, and I really like that because it doesn't, that way you still get the ability to have a lanyard, but if you're like me and you don't want one, right, you're not taking away from the design in any way by adding that. Maybe one complaint would be a plastic backspacer. That's not the best thing ever. But remember, they were trying to come in at a particular price point here. So can't complain too much about that. Let me bring in, before I give you sort of my overall take on this knife, a couple of competitive options that are out there. I will say this though, at $15, very few of these are going to be truly competitive options. There's the K-Bar Jaros. It's a little heavier, very similar in size though, certainly more robust in its overall construction than the Injection. What else have we got here? I think at this price point, you really need to have a Rat Model 1 or Rat Model 2. This is sort of in between. You guys know that I'm only going to go in for the 3.5-inch blade, but if you're into shorter blades, the Rat 2 might be a competitive option for you. And of course, there is a 3-inch version of the Injection. What else have I got that's competitive? Well, I will bring in this. Now, guys, normally I don't do this, but a Gonzo knife, the only reason I'm bringing this in is because these are so cheap right now that really the only thing you're going to get that compares quality-wise for a similar price point is something from Gonzo or Enlin or one of those Chinese companies. Let's pull in a couple of other knives that are going to cost a little bit more. There is the CRKT eraser. These can be had for about 50 bucks right now. If you look around, they are discontinued. What else have I got? Here's another knife that I've heard has gone on sale different places. This is a CRKT Fossil. Again, a really cool design, very different, of course, than the Injection, but from time to time you hear about these crazy sales on these, and so that's why I kind of brought this one in, because I've heard of these going for like $20 and stuff like that. It's not every day, but if you're on a couple of knife forums or something, you may find a good deal on a Fossil. So let's get back to the Injection. For the price point and for the design, for the construction, the utility of this, I think this is just a really, really good folder. If you're out there, if you want something that is decent, that you can really beat on, not be afraid of losing, I think this is a great option. The other cool thing about this knife is the versatility of it. You could carry this in a pair of jeans or a pair of dress pants or a pair of shorts or whatever, and it's kind of going to go with anything. You don't really need a gentleman's folder and then an EDC folder. It's just kind of right there, all around utility blade, with really only a very few complaints that I could issue about this. And think about this. If you go and price out other knives that are at the $15 to $20 price point, you're going to have usually way more complaints about a lot of those options. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you find this for a good price, I mentioned already Knife Center, but please go ahead and share in the comments where there are some other good deals on these knives. We'll talk to you soon.